Welcome to the Building Insight Podcast. My name is Quentin Glenn, Chief Operating Officer of the Flooring Pros and the Watson Family Companies, alongside my co-host Amy Morecco.
Hello.
Our guest today is Jon Jacek, Senior Pre-Construction Manager with Choate.
Correct.
John, how
That's
you
it.
doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good to see you guys.
Welcome.
Appreciate you having us.
Appreciate being here.
Obviously we've started working with you guys, about a year ago. Your company has always been one of the, kind of the premier contractors that, when we were growing, we aspired to start working with. So it's exciting to have you here, first and foremost. But I'm interested in learning about you, what how you got to where you're at, your experience with Choate, and what brought us here today.
Yeah, excellent. Well, be glad to share some of those grueling details, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I started off actually getting into the world of architecture, engineering, kind of migrating into construction all the way back in my freshman year in high school. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting journey, like every other kid going into high school, what are you going to do? What do you want to be?
Sure.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to be an astronaut.
I had no clue. I was, I had no idea. And of course, being that age, it was like, do you want to take like, auto shop or mechanics shop or whatever? And so we had a wood shop class and all that. So I thought, I'm gonna go do the wood shop class. And I sat in there, and the teacher says, well, we're going to do 6 weeks of course study talking about species of wood and blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to spend a week or so, getting familiar with some tools and everything. Then we're going to have another 6 weeks of course study about this, that, and the other. And then we'll play with the tools again for another week. And I got to the end of the class, and I was like, sounds like a lot of book work and not a lot of woodwork.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was not exactly turned on by that.
Yeah.
And I'd get more use out of my dad's tools in his garage than, So I went to the counselor and asked, what other options are there for electives? He said, well, the only thing left is drafting. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, what is drafting? I didn't even know what that was. He said, it's drawing. I'm like, oh, okay, I like to draw. That sounds good to me. So I did that, and that flipped into architecture and really grabbed hold of that. We had a great program at our community of schools in kind of southern central Michigan.
Go Bucks. I had to.
God, I knew you were going to throw that in there. I grew up 30 minutes north of Ann Arbor. Go Blue.
Okay.
So, we got a good rivalry going, Amy.
Yeah.
That's nice. So anyway, that fueled my love for getting into architecture and construction and understanding all that. Worked in high school on carpentry crews and brick mason crews and all that, and eventually actually didn't go to college. I was thought I was going to go straight into a school up in Michigan called Lawrence Tech University, heavy architecture school and all that, and I ended up getting kind of a backdoor into a company called Floor Daniel at the time down in Greenville, South Carolina, which was one of the world largest design build construction firms. Mm. I had no idea what I was going to expect going there.
Sure.
It was crazy. I was, again, a kid. I literally graduated high school June. July, I was down in Greenville, South Carolina, by myself, didn't know anything. I pull up at this place, and, there's this huge building. I thought, well, they must have an office in here. And then I quickly realized they are the building and several buildings, a whole campus of stuff. And this was the smallest of the campuses compared to one they had in Irvine, California. And so then it kind of grew from there. Eventually, I ended up kind of migrating into construction. I went to go work for Gaston Memorial Hospital and kind of got some opportunities there to manage some projects, and kind of got to loving that side more than the architecture and engineering side of the house. And along I went. So eventually, I ended up at Choate, which was really good, and that was back in like 2006. And I was there for about 4 years, and I left and went to another company, I won't say, Brand X, and ended up there for 4 very long years, realizing that I had made a mistake probably about a month into it.
Oh, no.
Going, oh, boy, I think I missed working at Choate.
Right, right.
Suffice to say, I ended up coming back. Took a while, but I did get back here and been back almost 4 years again. So great journey.
That's awesome.
That is great.
That's awesome. Now you're on the pre-construction side, and I come from a background, not in construction. We were talking offline before this. I kind of got into this industry by happenstance, and from an outsider's perspective, the pre-construction side of things is I guess you just don't really think about all of the stuff that goes into putting buildings up,
Yeah.
right? One of the things that I'd be driving around Scottsdale, Arizona, and what used to be just a plot of land. 3 months later, there's a brand new building, it's absolutely gorgeous, and
Right.
you just marvel at how quickly the structure goes up. Now being on the other side of things, the process that gets you from let's have an idea of what we want to do all the way to finished product is astounding.
Yeah.
So, what was it that drew you to be on? I don't want to say the administrative side, but like more of the the pre-construction
more of the upfront versus the because I've done both, and I've spent a lot of time either managing projects, through construction or upfront before construction. This day and age, which is really funny to think about it, but to get a project from start to point where we're even putting a shovel in the ground usually is longer now than it takes to build a building.
Yeah.
I mean, in Precon, we could have jobs that are there we work on for 3-4 years,
That's crazy.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
We have jobs that we bid that take 2+ years.
Yep. So the process up front has gotten a lot more complicated. Just jurisdictional, municipalities, all the states, the regulations, all that stuff, the permitting, the whole upfront process now takes so much longer to get done. And then you add into the fold, we deal with a lot of developers, and they're at the mercy of the banks. And when the banks get tough, then it's harder for them. And so the developers then have to look at things so many different ways to see what's the most efficient way to get this built. What's the most, bang for my buck, is the bottom line, right? And so there's a lot more challenges on the front end than it seems to be on the back end, which is hard to think about, I was making some notes earlier, and one of the things that we've continued to build buildings the same way we have for hundreds of years. So some things have gotten quicker, but still, the way that we construct is really no different than it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that process is, isn't really changing a whole lot. So hopefully things will continue to improve as we see, 3D printing and AI and all these other things start coming to play. Will that change, how we build, perhaps? But the front end, dealing with all this regulatory stuff and the municipalities and the permitting and the due diligence up front and all that, that's really, nothing's going to change there anytime soon. It's only gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better.
Yeah.
Because we used to be able to move through permitting and everything. You'd say, okay, well, we can get permit and be done in a few weeks and start building,
Right.
Yeah, no, not anymore.
Yeah. So what was it that drew you to that side? Was it your, the architectural background and the drafting background?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Our teacher who was an architect himself, retired architect, just really took us kids under his wing and really kind of just drove our love for, what it took to design a building. And then, I had some really good friends who were in construction, growing up that, same thing, and kind of took me under their wing and, knew that I loved construction and just, wanted to show me or, anything and everything they could, which was pretty cool. So having some of those people around you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always amazed at, like, my estimating team, for instance, just some of the stuff that they put together and how quickly they can put it together is pretty astounding. And a lot of that has to go with, the technology. I know you mentioned AI.
Yep.
We had Tim Marsh on one of our previous episodes, and that was a topic of conversation that we had with him and what that looks like. But a lot of the things that go into the pre-con side of, construction, you can't really automate that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to magically get the government to move quicker to give you this land, right? So what are like the typical components of your team, right? I'm sure you have, obviously there's a legal side of things. I'm sure you have a land and development side of things. What's like your team makeup?
Yeah, so I mean, we're pretty easy. I mean, we have 3 or 4 of guys like me, senior pre-con managers. Our whole job is to make sure we get the project from when it comes in the door to getting it shovel ready. Really is what it's about. So we're kind of all 4 of us marching that process through, and then we have other pre-con managers, assistant pre-con managers, construction engineers that are helping us gather all the data, get bid invitations out, research products, materials, subs that we're using, and all that sort of thing. So there's a lot of that goes on. It does seem like anymore, even putting the budgets together is easier and quicker because of technology. I mean, I just think all the way back, when I started drafting, it was all pen and paper.
Sure.
I think in my junior year, toward the end of my junior year, they started to bring CAD into the drafting labs.
Okay.
So our senior year, we had to start using CAD. I remember hating that. I just thought, oh God, yeah, it was awful. It was just, it took all the life out of my drawings. I guess I liked the art form of what I was doing more than I did the technical side of it, right? And it was all about making the elevations look real and the floor plans looking nice and neat, and and we spent a lot of time doing our lettering, and it was just, you just put a lot of work into that, and it was like an art piece when it was done.
Right.
And then you go to this machine, and all it does is, you draw these lines on a screen, and it spits out a very, mechanical looking, piece of paper, and you're like, oh,
wah, wah.
Yeah, wah, 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 right? Now fast forward 30 years, right? And now what can be done with software is even beyond, what I can even comprehend, and the modeling and everything else that we're able to do, and it's just, unbelievable.
It's crazy.
And
I have an estimator. Like, we were going over a project. I don't think it was one of your guys's, but he was drawing up bathrooms. He clicked a button, and like, I was in the bathroom.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Like, it's wild.
It's really amazing, and this really helps too. I was working on a project right now actually that I've got, that all we have is a floor plan, some really rudimentary elevations of what this building looks like. But the architect did a model for the client, 3D flyby, fly around, if you will.
Cool.
And so now I'm able to use that and see, all the ins and outs of the building, see the different material finishes and how it's all coming together. And it just from being able to sit there and now put a conceptual budget together, what a huge difference.
Yeah.
We have a VDC group, virtual design and construction group with Choate. Each office has their own VDC manager, who does nothing but help facilitate BIM, doing models and helping us build logistics plans and everything, and doing drone flies and all that. And, it's really revolutionized how we put budgets together from our perspective up front.
Yeah.
Not even to mention the assistance that gives on the construction side, with BIM being a big one. We built the NASCAR production studios,
Oh, cool.
up in Concord. And that, I was part of that team as well, and seeing that progress from just, a simple 2D drawing to, we had full BIM models and everything, and walking around, like you said, you could drop right in the middle of, you could see anywhere that there was going to be a conflict, a clash, something just didn't look right. Maybe we need to raise the ceiling here. Maybe we need to adjust this over here. And it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So there's a lot of great things that have come out of technology in our world, but still in the back end of building it, we still build it the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're still digging footings and pouring them the same way. We're still stick building walls and still, welding steel, and still, all that's still the same.
Right.
It's certainly gotten safer. It's got more complex. I think the buildings today are certainly a lot more complex than they were in the past as well.
We
had
had
more detail and whatnot.
We had a guest on 2 or 3 episodes ago, to kind of your point, like, we're still building things the same way. They have come up with like just a sheer innovation in showers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Which, how complicated can a shower be? But when you think about it, showers have been put in the exact same way for 50 years.
A long time.
Right?
Yep.
And just their ability to, like, they've created a business just off of, like, improving the efficiency within a particular product. And I'm sure, there are other companies out there doing similar things in different areas of construction. Obviously, being a member of the PCEA, you get to see a lot of these things like before the world gets to see them.
Sure.
Right. Is there anything that you're seeing, again, on the Precon side that gets you excited for that change of, building a different way?
For building a different way, I'm not sure. For definitely in how we're doing things on our end for, putting these budgets together, estimating quantity takeoffs, that sort of thing. Seeing, you mentioned PCAA. I saw for the first time a group called Toggle AI came in to do a demonstration.
We use Toggle.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys, excellent. We'll probably have to reach out to you because I think we may be heading that direction. It looks like.
I got feedback for it,
And,
for sure. No free ads, by the way.
Okay, yeah, this is not an endorsement.
Yeah.
But seeing what the guy was able to demonstrate, and of course, you got to take demonstrations with a grain of salt. A lot of it's already preloaded. I know I sold some software in the past too, but but still, the rudimentary things of what they're able to do just blew me away. And seeing that kind of thing, and to know where we used to take it off by hand and you'd highlight plans, to then came the digitizer and you'd sit there with this digital pen and kaplunk, 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 and count everything and do your areas, to now it's all on a screen and a PDF, and you can go through and highlight all these different areas and things and come up with your calculations and counts and whatnot. And now Toggle just takes it to a whole new level. And that's super exciting to see that. I mean, especially, the multifamily, hotels, hospitals, stuff where you have a lot of repetitive, floor after floor after floor of the same thing. I mean, my goodness, what speed and efficiency, those systems can offer. So
we had one project, I'm going to ballpark it and say it was, 200 multifamily units, right? 4 different floor plans, right? Like a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. And what would have taken my estimating team a week and a half to do was done in 12 minutes.
Yeah. That's insane.
Now, and that's a good thing and a bad thing, right?
You still got to back check.
Right.
You still got to back check.
So, some of the feedback that I had from my estimating team was, like, am I still gonna have a job? It's just, and
we're just going to expect you to do twice as much.
Right. Yeah. In 1/50th of the time. Right.
Right.
But one of the things that gets lost in a technology like that is that human element.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you really deep dive into some of those plans, there may be an extra square foot here, or the walls cut just a little bit differently
and
there.
Usually it's the detail of stuff.
Right.
You look at this room here that we're in, and the wood siding on the wall, the little green wall, if you will, or it's just, it's things like that. I don't know how well it's truly getting all those components. So there's still a human element that has to be done.
Yeah, and I feel like our team does really well with, like, our scope reviews. I think that really helps solidify us getting projects. And if you don't know it as well when you're doing those, I feel like that will impact.
Yeah.
I feel like we get a lot of feedback on how well our estimators do with the scope reviews and all of that. So because they're in it, they're
And then we love, as a contractor, we love to see that detail come back to us too. Right. By the way, just a plug for all the subs that we work with.
Sure.
Some of the ones that we really love are the ones that supply, all that data to kind of back it up. And, that just helps us to make sure that, hey, we're all on the same page here, so that when we go to contract and we go to build, we don't have the problem of, oh, well, I didn't have that. I didn't have that. I didn't have that, right? And it's like, so now at least we're all on the same page when we get that detail up front.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Just kind of switching gears just a little bit, and not to sound like I'm flirting with Choate necessarily, but you know, one of the things that I've experienced and I've gotten the feedback from the team in working with a company such as Choate is just like the professionalism, like the I mean, nature of being able to go from, you know, this step to this step to this step fluidly. You know, it doesn't exist everywhere. And, you know, my background's in headhunting and recruiting. So, you know, finding talent is, you know, it's an important, it's the most important piece.
That's right.
Right.
It
How do you go about like hiring people? Like what elements are you looking for in people that would make them not only like a good fit for the job, right, but a good fit for the culture that you guys have created?
I was gonna say culture is everything. You know, as I've been around in different places and everything, and have also been in between my Choate stays, has been, you know, trying to build the team myself and everything, and it's tough. It really is. Finding the right people who have that drive, that determination. And I think that's what separates, you know, what we have at Choate is, you know, the people that we bring in have that, you know, accountability, ownership mentality. We're an ESOP, we're an employee-owned company, and so we all have that same type of just, hey, we take it all on our shoulders and we run with it, right? So it's that kind of an attitude, mentality, if you will, that really kind of permeates throughout the organization, and that's pretty much in all our offices. We all have, you know, each office has its own culture still, you know, but for us, you know, that definitely is what drives us, you know, and Choate's always been that contract's been known as one who, you know, just doesn't let obstacles get in the way. You know, we're always pressed against the wall, it seems like, for getting projects done, you know, quick and on time, ahead of time, with no time sometimes. So we've been on those. You know, we did the North Wilkesboro Speedway and renovations last year, and we had a schedule we thought was going to be a year to do this thing, and all of a sudden the Speedway Motorsports guys say, hey, we got the All-Star race coming. We want to have that here in Wilkesboro. Cut our time in half.
Oh my goodness.
So we thought we had to do this, ended up doing that, and we got it done, you know.
They were testing you.
Yeah, roll your sleeves up, you know, dive in and you know, make it happen. That's the mentality, and that's the type of people that we hire and want to see. And don't take excuses, just you know, just solutions.
Well, and you know, I'm sure you have a similar mindset to this, but I tell my team all the time that my biggest metric as a leader of the company is to be able to create other leaders.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. You know, if I'm not creating other leaders, then my time's not scalable.
Yep.
Right. Their success isn't, you know,
that's
scalable, you know, and I'm stealing this quote from somebody, and I don't know who it is, so I apologize. But I would rather have 1% of 100 people than 100% of any one person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that ESOP model is really kind of breeds that, right? Everybody's personally invested in the success of the company. They want to see it succeed because, you know, they're getting the results, you know, personally, professionally, and financially at the end of the day.
That's right. That's right.
It's tough to find the right type of people, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's continuing to be so, but we continue to find them too. Just takes sometimes more, and you do go through them. You know, they come in and they go.
Sure.
The ones that, you know, really show promise, you do what you can to keep. You know, give them the opportunity and let them go. You know, let them go, let them thrive, let them excel.
Yeah, so be successful somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's kind of like your bread and butter specifically? I mean, to you, right? Like, what type of projects do you work on? Do you do a little bit of everything? Are you kind of more geared towards like the heavy commercial, or what was that piece of
Yeah. So historically, this office has been real heavy in the distribution, you know, big box market. You know, that's been our bread and butter. But you know, now it's kind of a little bit of everything. We're all kind of pitching in, doing, because that market has slowed up. Because I think partially because a lot of the needs being satisfied now. Boxes aren't as big as they were, so they've gotten smaller. That's no secret. And so there's just few of those opportunities now out there. So we're all doing different things, automotive, dealership world, healthcare, we're kind of touching all sorts of different markets, private schools. So we're really kind of just, again, rolling up our sleeves and whatever it takes.
Is there any one particular, type of project that you personally prefer working, or,
No, not really. I'd say more, not necessarily the market sector, but the type or style of. I love doing design build or design assist. That's kind of been one that I've rolled with a lot through my career, and I love that model. Misconceptions, I think you would put that in one of the emails you and I shared, Amy, and misconceptions of general or construction, I guess, is owners think sometimes that the best way to get the value out of a project is to design, bid, build, which, I can just tell you that's not. Maybe for a very simple, basic project, but generally speaking, a design assist or design build model is far better to get the value that you want to get. We can now design and build to a budget versus designing to whatever the architect wants to, to then pricing it and going, oh yeah, you're way over budget. Now we go back to the drawing board. I mean, it takes more time. It costs more money. At the end of the day, we could have done all that and cut that process down.
Yep, exactly.
Save time, save money, get a better product too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
now when you, when you're talking about like the motor speedways, like, do you find any, like to me, that's a cool project.
Yeah, I worked on a lot of NASCAR stuff.
That's awesome.
Over the years, which is really cool. Yeah, obviously being a heavy NASCAR community here in Charlotte, it is pretty exciting, pretty cool stuff.
Any like particular projects from your past that like stick out to you as like, wow, that's really cool. Like
that the NASCAR production building we just finished. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was one I have not been involved in something that I guess intense in terms of being a studio like what we're in. Just the amount of detail that goes into the sound attenuation, if you will, throughout the building is just crazy. The size of the ductwork. I mean, you don't think about mechanical stuff when it comes to a studio, but it's hugely important.
Yeah.
If that grill
Acoustics.
is producing too much air and it's all you hear in the background is the air going.
Yeah.
Right. So now we've got these huge ducts so that air moves through at a much slower rate but a higher volume, and that helps keep the sound down, and the amount of detail in the walls and making sure that there's no transmission of sound between the walls and everything is crazy. It is really cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
Well, one question that I like to ask everyone who we have on the show is, what advice do you have for somebody who, looking back at, when you were 17 and, going through that drafting class, like what advice do you have for, I guess, 17-year-old John?
Yeah.
Like how do you make a career out of this field? Like what do you have to do to be successful?
I would say absorb. Take it all in. Don't think you know it all, because you don't. That's pretty hard for, coming out of high school, coming out of college, you see these guys today and some of them think they do know it all, and they don't, and so just let it come, let it, absorb what you're being taught, absorb what, those who do have the experience around you. That was the biggest thing I had. I was always the young guy in the group that I was working with. So just try and take it all in and take the pieces that you need, and let that be your guide there. Just taking it all in and not being rushed, but just let it all come to you.
Yeah. That self-development piece is big, right? When I was 21 years old, I thought I knew everything in the world. And then I got to be 25 and I realized I don't know everything. It's like one of those little, like, cyclical. As soon as you think you've got something figured out, then you really understand how much you don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And kind of having that, I mean, to your point, having that student type mentality with everything that you do. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how you master your craft.
That's right. And that's what's interesting about this field in construction is it is always changing. Even though we might build the same way, how we build might be different, but we're always having to learn new things.
Yep.
And whether it's through technology, which is a lot of what we're having to do now is learning new technology.
Yeah.
So there's always something there to learn. So it's never an ending process.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, John, I appreciate your time here today. It's
Same.
been great speaking with you, learned a little bit about your history. And again, for Amy Marco, my name is Quentin Glenn. Thank you for joining us on the Building Insight podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect.